आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक् प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणमे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Our senses, mind, intellect are all instruments by which we experience the external world and we interact or transact with the external world. It is not the fault of our senses, it's the scope of our senses. Each means of knowledge has its own scope. For example, the eyes can only recognize name, form, color. So, name, shape and color. Eyes cannot see sound. Now, with the eyes, if we try to see sound, can you see it? By nature, our sense organs are made to perceive outside objects. Our eyes cannot even see our lungs and kidneys inside, is it not? That's why as in Kenopanishad it is said, these senses are as though pierced outside. So they can only see outside objects, they cannot see inside objects. Your eyes can see gross shapes and forms. Your eyes cannot see feelings. So, and all the knowledge that we have is of the external world. However little it may be of the total cosmos, it is of the external world. And how do we get that knowledge? What we see, what we hear, and then how our mind interprets it, how our intellect has gathered knowledge to recognize things. This is how we gain all our knowledge. Today, even with our education system, even the capacity of our mind or our intellect has been trained only to think in a particular manner. That itself is a limitation. But Vedanta Praman, Vedanta, which is the means of knowledge, is even beyond our faculties, the various faculties that we have. It's a unique knowing. Since this is the knowledge of that because of which the mind and intellect functions, in our figurative term, it is something which is behind the senses, behind the mind, not physically. We can only see what is in front of us. We can't see what is behind us. In the same way, our senses, their scope is to see objects that is in its range. Even our ears cannot hear some certain frequencies that maybe dogs can hear. Today since we can measure frequency, we can hear that. This Upanishad makes us understand that there are other methods of knowing. And one such method is direct knowing. Now, what is direct knowing? We are not familiar with, even though we are doing it, even though we have it. Because we are so preoccupied with the objects of the world. Then only you'll understand why vairagya. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not enjoying any bad thing. I'm not demanding or desiring anything bad or harmful. But our mind gets preoccupied with the objects of the senses for its pleasures, its comforts, etc. So such a mind gets completely entangled in the so-called problems of the world. Such a gross mind, extroverted mind, even to understand the true import, I'm saying even the word meaning or the sentence meaning is very difficult. But to understand the nature of this knowledge and that method by which we recognize directly what this truth is. So what this truth is to recognize directly. So therefore, all our methods of knowing is to be transcended because this is a different way of knowing. Now the object never can see the subject because the object is inert. If I am seeing these reading glasses, my eyes at this moment are seeing these reading glasses, and when I wear them, I see through these glasses. But if I remove these glasses and say, now you see me, can it see me? Can it see me? With a telescope, I see a distant star. So why not with the telescope I can see myself? Gurudev would dramatize. You see the distant star. Now you decide that I want to see who is the seer. So I move on that side. There's nothing to see. Is it not? Because the seer has moved to the other side. Now, even after years of hearing Vedanta, this frustration remains because we continue to see the self, objectify the self, limit the unlimited by trying to bring it into the confines of our mind. The mind never knows it. This knowledge removes our misconceptions, misassociations, misapprehensions, misidentifications with our equipments. Because of which our eyes and mind is knowing, requires no other knower to know it. Just as the sun requires no other torchlight or floodlight to be seen, it is in the light of the sun that we are seeing everything. Sun itself requires no light in the relative world. Therefore, what this knowledge is doing is shifting your identification from that which is known to that which is the knower. So when you recognize that the eyes are not the seer, the mind is not the feeler on its own, and the intellect is not the knower, because there is someone who is knowing that also. The conditions of the mind, the conditions of the intellect. Therefore, the mind and the intellect are also known. Even with the telescope, if I see the distant star, while I'm seeing the distant star, I don't see the telescope because I'm seeing through it. Like when I'm wearing the glasses, I don't see my glasses. But if I just change my focus to my glass, even the glasses are seen. So same way, when you're looking through the telescope, you may not see the telescope. But when you shift your attention, you realize that you see the telescope also. And that telescope cannot see you. Nor through that telescope you can see yourself. Because the seer, when he goes to the other side, there is nothing to be seen. Get the point? If this is understood, then this verse becomes very clear, where the nature of our bondage becomes clear, which is due to our false identification. And since we are talking about knower, at this moment also, who is knowing everything? It is with our mind and intellect we are knowing the world. So we mistake the mind and intellect, or this process of thinking, or this personality which is the thinker, to be me. So that's why here this says, first of all, why can't you just describe it, or why don't you just show it to me? So that even in meditation or while we are listening, I'm telling you, we may hear for many years. The teachers themselves know it. That's why they are so compassionate, because they also went through the same thing. The frustration that why don't you show it to me? Okay, I'm dumb. Show it to me, no? Yeah. Okay, I just can't understand. Just show it to me, no? Na tatra chakshuhu gacchati. It is not in the scope of the eyes to see it. Okay, you describe to me, I will try to see it, because something that you don't know. Na vak gacchati. It cannot be described, it cannot be confined, because words can describe what you see, a name, a form, or some qualities, or a relationship, or some action. But words cannot describe what we don't see, which has got no qualities, which has got no properties, because anything that has got qualities, properties, form is seen. And you can describe what is seen, but what has never been seen or what cannot be seen, which has got no properties, which has got no form, no limitations, cannot be described by words. Therefore, it is said, truth defined is truth defiled. And if you cannot define it, then how can you know it? Therefore, unique is the method of thinking, unique are the method of using words, and unique is the method of teaching itself. Because whatever names, whatever even definitions may be given, they are not qualitative definitions. They are indicating definitions. But words cannot define it. Words can only indicate what it is not. So only indicate it. Nor is it a feeling or the thoughts of your mind and intellect. So even the mind cannot grasp it. Yet, Vedanta points out, the science points out, that when the mind becomes subtle, that we can understand, no? Sukshma. Just like a gross mind only sees how much money are you going to make, A subtler mind sees whether there is some cooperation or job satisfaction. A subtler mind sees how much more is the society going to benefit from this action, this job, or this function of mind. Subtler still is, how much does my mind develop when I do this type of action? This is subtler. How do you even measure that? So as you go subtler, the mind becomes so subtle, so pure, that a unique faculty arises in it, not to objectify the subject, but to transcend the mind itself. There's like a pole vault. If there is a high wall, how do you cross that if there is no steps? You take the help of the pole. You strike it on the ground, you run, you strike it on the ground, and you levitate yourself. Levitate, okay, I have to be very careful for spiritual people, You lift yourself you leverage yourself with the pole, and as you get up the wall, what do? If you keep holding to the pole, what's going to happen? You'll either hang there only or you'll fall there. Now, at the pole we can see, but this is exactly what happens. We remain in the mind only. Even studies of the Shastras is just in the mind. And the scriptures themselves say, whether it's the Gita, whether it's that just the mere word has to be dropped. So once have you gone up there, then what you do? You just let go. That pole is not useless. It took you up there. Higher the pole, higher is the wall, which seems impossible to cross. But having reached there, you let go and you cross that wall. This type of knowledge, where the means is the mind only, but by which you transcend the mind. This is that knowledge. So with the mind only you have to know. With the mind only you study. There which says that words cannot describe, but then words are only given to us. No? And at this moment, okay, I'm not the mind, I'm not the eyes, I can understand. But this thinking, knowing process that is going on, is that the knower? And to remove that notion, because as long as my mind is thinking, I think I am conscious. Otherwise, if I'm not seeing the world outside, I'm unconscious. Therefore, other than this method, na vidmaha. Why I cannot describe it, or it cannot be described by anybody? Because it cannot be seen by anybody as an object. Therefore, na vidmaha. I don't know. Then how are you teaching? I don't know any other method than to this way. In short, to confuse you. Yeah? If you think that is the thing. Which means there's no other method of instruction other than giving this indicative method and you inquiring in lines of the scripture, not my own inquiry. You can land up with your own inquiry in the horns of a buffalo. Yeah? So if you don't know, then what are you instructing? So you mean to say, then you tell clearly, no, it is unknown. It is other than the known, and it is other than the unknown. Because with our intellect, we can only understand pairs of opposites. So if you say it is known, then it is known as an object, and I am separate from it. If you say it is unknown, then you think that that which is unknown and can never be known does not exist. Therefore, these both dilemmas are removed by saying it is other than the known and the unknown. Now, for again, easy to understand, the great acharyas have pointed out, for example, even these equipments are known, but our vasanas, which are unmanifest, the cause of our thinking in a particular manner, which is unmanifest, that is also called as unknown. So that also remains unknown. Vasanas, until they manifest as desire, desire is not a particular vasana. It comes from a particular vasana, but it is not a particular vasana, a certain pattern. So they remain. There are many things that remain unknown to us. But when they manifest, they become known. Like Maya is also inferred from the effect. Maya as such cannot be known. Now, Maya and all fancy words. Something which is known to you, something which is known to you, you see it to exist, you say it is real. And something which is unknown to you may exist somewhere, but you don't know it. Right? So some things can be known as known and unknown. But this is other than known and unknown. Therefore, your attention is shifted to the self, which is ever present but yet is not known, and you cannot say it is unknown. You know? Because it is with that we are knowing everything. So other than known, other than unknown, which one time can become known or does not exist. See, something which can never be known does not exist. You know, in our intellectual understanding and worldly understanding, that is the case. No? Or it is unknown to me, but sometimes it will become known. Therefore, this is that which is neither known nor unknown. Which means that it is not unknown because it does not exist, or because it is so subtle beyond the scope of our senses in that manner, but exists, and because is the subject who is seen through the telescope, neither the telescope can see it, and it never becomes the seed. So it doesn't become known as an object, and yet you cannot say it is not unknown, because it is the very consciousness because of which we are knowing even the equipments which we think are conscious. So if we say it is known, then it becomes an object. If you say it is unknown, which is also an object, is known or unknown, or at some time you can know it, and if it is completely unknown, it does not exist. But it exists because of which we are knowing everything, and yet it remains unknown as an object. Unique, isn't it? Yeah. And therefore, there is no other method to teach other than leading your mind in this manner, as pointed out by the Upanishads. And the Upanishads also are explained in this manner due to the Guru Shishya Parampara. And this is how it was instructed to us, because otherwise words cannot describe it, mind cannot know it, and yet it is that knower because of which it is known. Okay, to make it simple for you, because now you're still trying to know it, no? Why it is other than known and unknown, the teacher goes further to say,
Yadvacha anabhuditam yena vagabhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate.
multiple is the purpose of this verse, but first, what we already explained now, it is being pointed out by the great Rishi that yat vacha anabhyuditam, that which by speech cannot be described. not revealed. Yena vak abhyudyate. But that by which even speech is known or speech is possible, tad-eva Brahma. That alone is infinite because it's not conditioned by our perception, conditioned by our equipments, conditioned by the mind. Tadeva Brahma, the unlimited, unconditioned, infinite. And that tvam vidhi, you have to know it yourself. Na idam yat idam upasate. Not all this that you experience in the world, and not even what people worship in this world. Why it cannot be described by speech? And even though Guru's words, the scripture's words are not describing it, I've explained already that. So it is not the object of your speech, which means speech can describe. It is not the object of your speech. So it is neither the sound nor the process by which your speech is made, by you first getting an idea, then you verbalizing it, and then you speak it outside word. Vaikri. You speak it. So it is neither the object, that idam world, that you can describe with speech, experience as sound of other people speaking. So that which speech cannot describe. So anything that speech can describe is either a property or a form, etc. And all of these are inert. And they are objects. They have properties and they have got qualities. So it is neither the sound or speech. It is not even the process of speaking or formulating words. It is not the organs of speech, but that by which speech itself is recognized. So these are all indicators, meditations, that if you get stuck in words, it is neither words, but that which is aware of that sound, that word, including the sense organ, their process, that is Brahman, that is unconditioned, infinite. Know it. Tvam vidhi. It has to be your knowledge. Tvam vidhi. Not what you worship outside. Which is to point out to us that even what we do is either get stuck with the words, their meaning, their etymology, etc. And mind you, all students of Vedanta, because it is through word, through Shabda only, and through the intellect, or the mind intellect, that you're trying to understand the scriptures. But remember, it's a pole vault. If you think that you have memorized the scripture, na medhaya. You can give eloquent discourses, na pravachan, which means not the reflecting process, not the word knowledge. Many people think that reading one scripture after the other, another scripture after the other, listening to another guru after the other, reading the same Upanishads today online, every speaker is there. Go on listening, this, that. It's not the word. It's not quoting left and right. It's not saying that I'm telling you this alone is the meaning of it. It is what I have realized of it. I have understood of it. And when my understanding is in line with the means of knowledge, just as I told you, like a mathematical problem, I know it. Tvam viddhi. This is also very beautifully, the Sanskrit language is such. So it is said, Tvam viddhi is like an instruction. You know it yourself. Therefore in Kaivalya Upanishad, student says, teach me. And the guru says, learn it. But without Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana, Yogad away. With the equipment tuned up with firm faith in the words of the scripture and the guru, that it is true. It's not like when I do the problem and get a wrong answer, and then when I take the book, I say, I think that teacher is wrong because what I say is right. I'm giving this mathematics books example, that when I know it through the words of the scripture, not stuck with the words and the etymology, etc. You have to know it. Tvam viddhi. Now the way we have instructed, the way we were instructed, the way we came to know it, now you have to know it. It's not a descriptive that you can teach, you got the information and that knowledge is enough. It's not a skill. So, tvam viddhi. You know it. But this same statement, that which cannot be described by speech, nor which is the organs of speech, nor the faculty of speech, but that which by which all this is known and recognized, that is Brahma. And what is that Brahma? Tvam. You. Viddhi. Know it. So it is Tattvamasi Mahavakya. Tad Brahma Tvam Tvama Viddhi. Or that is Brahma, you know it. Both meaning. And both don't contradict. See? So, Tadeva Brahma Tvam Viddhi. Know it as your self. Not that I know everything about Brahman, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Satchidananda Brahma, Satyam Shivam Brahma, Yato Vacho Nivartante. Acha, you're saying that, Yeah. From where this whole creation comes forth, in which it sustains, in which it dissolves. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. Dhar coat. You think I don't know Brahman? Yeah? You ask someone, what is Sat? Yeah. That is Sat. What is Sat? Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Abhi Sach, Nanak Hose Bhi Sach, Trikale Trishtati Ti Sach, Sach. Yeah. Definition of truth is not truth, Baba. The definition of truth is to indicate the truth. And what it is, what we understand as truth, it is not. We have to take our mind to see it. Therefore, Tvam Vidhi. And what have you to know? Tadeva Brahmatvam. You are that. Now, in case you might think, okay, this thinking person is me. Again, the same equipments are taken up. And therefore, Gurudev used to say, this is a meditative lullaby, not to sleep. And I'll explain that this is not what you worship outside. I'll explain after we go through the lullaby, because that is going to wake you up. And this is a meditative lullaby. And meditative lullaby means that as you recognize that it cannot be described by words, and you use those words to turn your mind towards that direction. That from just listening to the words, but what the words are showing you. That's why how many times, even in normal conversation, you're not understanding the drive of my word. You don't understand, misunderstood me. I didn't mean that. Even in worldly sense, don't you see that? So what do these words mean? They don't mean those limited concepts. They mean much more than that. So come to know them. Not these concepts of the infinite or God that you have in your mind. And which is much more than what you think is just, idol worship or some form or some name. It's much more than that. I'll explain. So let's go to the next verse. And because you're thinking with your mind and your speech is also recognized by the mind, you might confuse the mind to be the knower. So therefore here it is said,
Yan manasana manute Yena hurmano matam Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi Nedam yadidam upasate.
So it is not the subtle feelings or even experiences that you have in your mind, nor the mind equipment, not even the functioning of the mind. It is only the evidence. When the fan is moving, it is an evidence that there is electricity. But the moving of the fan is not electricity. So, yan manasana manute, that which can be felt or experienced or known by the mind intellect equipments. Here means mana, buddhi, ahankara, chit, the entire antakaran. So, yan manasana manute. But yenahur mano matam, by which even the mind is known. And therefore, the technique of meditation, or you say the practice of meditation that is given by a Vedantic guru is basically watching your mind. Now, how do we start with first? And these are important steps. That's why I'm taking Kenopanishad not only with its, traditional commentary, but like Gurudev has explained with those practices by which you can tune up your mind and the subtleties of it, which is to be understood from the bhashyas, but we get too entangled sometimes. And it is essential to study it because we do not then know the framework in which we have to think and discover for ourselves. And to know that this is what I've understood is right. That's why it is essential. But what we have to do is directly realize it, directly experience it. Now, when I'm explaining in this class, that is your initiation into meditation. Yes, guided also, we will show you, is that all of us, even now, whether your mind is calm or it is agitated, it is sleepy or is it awake? Yeah? Are you not aware of it? So your mind is seen by you. Don't take that lightly. Now, how would you be so sure that mind is seen? Because this is the unique maya, this is the unique ignorance, this is the unique illusion that takes place, that we immediately identify with our minds. Because this whole thinking personality, my whole ego here not being the pride, vanity, is this knower, thinker, me, the illusion. To think that I'm not the body is not that difficult. Because we see it dying, we see it changing, we see it cannot function without, mental connection or whatever it is. But this identity that I have with this mind-intellect equipment, because it gives you the semblance of a knower. And it is with that we are knowing everything. So what is known through the mind or recognized through the mind or visualized by the mind, whether outside or even inside visions, it is seen and experienced by the mind. It is conditioned by the mind. However spectacular that vision might be, however it may be a rare vision which no one else has seen and you might have seen in your meditation. It is seen, felt, experienced by the mind. At a subtle level, it is not that also. And not the mind, however subtle, pure mind may be there, which can see, or even an intellect that can think about relativity, etc., or multiverses and dimensions, etc. Even those I am aware of. And therefore, that I am not. That is seen. I am the seer, the one who is aware even of those thoughts. Therefore it is said, watch your thoughts. And sometimes you say, how can I do that? And I'll tell you, one of the biggest mistakes that people do is I have to cultivate witness bhavana. It is not you have to cultivate, you have to recognize you are a witness. You have to recognize that you are a witness. And to start off this process, even in the book Meditation Life, Gurudev has emphasized, do daily introspection. If you want to change the conditions of your life and change your mind, do introspection. But for a meditator, it is wonderful that you are practicing to watch your mind. At this moment, you're so preoccupied. Okay, I know all this Atma, Brahman, fine. After this, they say, but tell me how I solve the problem in my life. You will still get dragged into mind. Isn't this practical reality? I am experiencing this sorrow and, all these things will come back. It is so important that if I want to be free of, say, the problems and crises of my life, daily introspect. Watch your strength and your weaknesses. What did you do right as well as what did you right? And nothing to feel guilty or miserable or sinful about it. Assert to yourselves that if it is harmful to me, it is causing me sorrow and it has caused me pain, or I have caused pain to others, or I have done something. Just as Hanumanji, in not even half a verse, but 2 words, killed Sinika. Yeah? Yesterday only you heard, no? Now don't ask me how I heard. The same consciousness with which you heard. Not that I am unconscious. That which knows all the thoughts. So do your introspection, you're already practicing watching your mind. And with that, the changes in the texture of your mind takes place, which makes it conducive for you to stand apart from the mind. Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi. Start with introspection. As the mind becomes purer, as the mind develops more freedom from likes, dislikes, hatred, jealousy, grievances, guilt, past memories, or wants, desires, hopes, expectations. These are reduced through upasana, karma and upasana, daily introspection. Even in Gita, Krishna says, Tan titikshasva bharata. And next verse said that if you have titiksha, you're not getting affected by the changing world. Then only you can be not affected by the changing mind. All these sadhanas, if you don't do them, I am Brahman, worship me. What are you, all sinners? Introspection daily. Keep an ideal Guru, Lord as an ideal. Great men, people, saints, sages. Keep them as an ideal and see how they lived in midst of all the problems and sorrows of their life. What to do, Swamiji? I am married. Tukaram was married and his wife was no easy woman. So, through all these sadhanas which have been pointed out, these sadhanas must lead you to recognize that I am not affected by the world. I am not even the mind which is sometimes affected, sometimes unaffected. But when it is affected, you can't stay apart from it. Therefore, all sadhanas to calm the mind, slow the mind, dynamize the mind. All values that are taught to us. Adveshtha sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha kshami. All these will be there when we introspect. All these sadhanas when we do, it is slowly making us aware that I am not this body, not this mind, not this intellect, and the world of objects cannot affect me. Therefore, Gita starts with, fire cannot burn me, weapons cannot cleave me. Nobody can kill me. And Shankaracharya writes in the commentary, not even Ishvara. Because ajaha, anitya, shashvataha, puranaha, nahanyate hanyamane sharire. No death can take place of the Atma. Now, I'm not going far, but that is what Brahman is. And that Brahman, which is infinite, cannot have fear for anything because there is no other thing also. Tadeva Brahmatvam. Otherwise, the whole thing is okay. All this knowledge you gave him is fine, but what is the use of it? Brahman, even Tulsidas ji in a very nice way writes, in Nam Upasana, he says, hey, that Brahman is there in everybody's heart and yet everybody is sorrowful. Why, Rather have Ramchandra ji come with a bow and arrow and kill these Rakshasas inside me. Yeah. Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi. Not what you think or worship with your mind, which is helpful, but it is not the be end. We'll just complete the following verses, which make it now very clear.
Yacchakshuषा न pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate.
So what cannot be seen by the eye, but by which the eyes are able to see. By which the eyes are able to see. Tad eva brahmatvam vidhi. Na idam yat idam upasate. Not this idam, not this world which is experienced as idam, idam, idam. Not even this mind and eyes which can be experienced as idam, idam, idam. Same thing with the ears, the same thing with the breath. We just read the verses, they are very clear.
Yacchrotrena na shrunoti yena shrotramidam shrutam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Yat pranena na praniti yena pranah praniyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate.
So what cannot be heard by the ear, but that by which the ears are able to hear. That which one breathes not with his breath, but because of which air is breathed, or we breathe it in. Know that to be Brahma. Tad eva Brahma. Not this which we experience as an object, gross or subtle. And know that to be you, tvam vidhi, not which people do upasana of. And upasana is of a tangible, visible point of concentration. I'll explain more in details about that. So this is not a criticism for upasana, please understand. But what we hold on as a symbol, an ideal, or a hero, to develop all those qualities and to develop concentration and the magnitude of the mind, the vastness of the mind. But do not get stuck with some means. Know that the one who is the knower of it is the self, the Atma, the consciousness, which is infinite, Brahman, not even what you worship in this world. And your worship is not just idols and this and that. Whatever people worship with some qualities, with some form or with some name, they are not, don't mistake the container to be the essence. So not only your senses, but also what you hold on to as divine. Know who is the knower of that also. That we will explain in the next session about upasana, and finally, what is that state of realization? Which disciple realized? Now, it is a very subtle knowledge. Did you understand it? Yes. Some say no. Some say somewhat. No? Okay. Somewhat. No, not that I didn't understand, but somewhat. So, how to make this knowledge solid, firm, is the next verse. Meanwhile, reflect. Not on the next verse, what you have heard. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.